you.
You're welcome.
And Marianne, could you please share your speech title with us?
My speech title is Headlines.
Headlines. Our second speaker for the International Speech Contest is Marianne Burrows with her speech, Headlines. Headlines, Marianne Burrows.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra. If I was a newspaper reporter and I was writing a report about your life, what would the headlines read? Would it be that you're rich and famous? Or maybe there'd be some skeletons in your closet. But I think a more important question to ask is, what will the headlines of the future of your life be? Do you have goals and aspirations that bubble up in your mind? Maybe you'd like to write a book or become a better speaker. But if you haven't sat down and typed out your outline, nor have you visited a Toastmaster meeting, there's a very good chance, if you don't put action to your desire, that you won't get the outcome that you wish for. And do you live your life on purpose? Or do you just do what's always been done? A little girl named Susie was watching her mother as her mother prepared the dinner. My mother took out a pan, she took out the roast, she chopped off both ends of the roast, placed it in the pan, and put it in the oven. Little Susie watched intently and said, "But Mommy, why did you cut off the ends of the roast?" The mother thought about it for a few moments and said, "I don't know, it's the way Grandma always did it." Little Susie then said, "But why did Grandma do it?" The mother said, "I don't know, why don't we call her and ask?" And they called up Grandma. Grandma giggled and said, "Well, the reason why I did that was because my roasting pan was so small. The only way I could fit the roast in the pan was to trim off the ends." Now you can see that both of these ladies were doing the identical action. But one was doing something logical and practical, and the other was simply doing what was always done. Are there ways in your life that you continue to do things the way they are just because that's the way it's supposed to be, without questioning, examining, observing them? I like to think of it as cleaning out the closet of my mind. And much like a physical closet, you go in the closet and take out each item, examine it and question, is this of value to me today? And if it is, great, put it back. But if not, maybe it's time to let it go. A number of years ago, I was going through the items of a loved one when I came upon these tiny little shoes. They're about 3.5, 4 inches long, and they're called lotus shoes. As I was admiring them, one tumbled to the ground. As I bent down to pick it up, I saw the bottom of the shoe, the sole. I gasped because I had read many stories about the tradition in China where they bound the feet of little girls. And this kept them from being able to play and run, and made it very difficult for them to even walk. Now, it's really easy for us to judge and point a finger. But I think a better question for us to think about is, are there ways that I live a restricted, confined life that maybe I'm not aware of because it's what I've always had happen? Now, these family members had a reason to subject their daughters to this. It was because they felt there was a better chance for their daughters to marry into a wealthy family instead of work in the fields. Well, one day, one voice stood up and said, "No, we can't do this any longer." And though it took many years to eradicate it, eventually that was eradicated from our planet. As a little girl, I was very shy and quiet, and I would hide behind my mother's apron strings. But that really didn't do much good because you see, my mother was very shy and quiet as well. And I was basically taught that girls should never have an opinion, and if they did, they should never express that opinion. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that think that would probably be a good choice. And this served me quite well for a long time. But eventually, I began to have the stirrings from within of my authentic self that would no longer allow me within the confines of my tradition. And I had to keep pushing them aside. It's not easy to go against the grain of tradition. But for me to live fully who I came here to be, I keep pushing those walls aside. So, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, it's really not that important what the headlines of the rest of your life look like to us, but it's actually very important to you. And maybe you'd like to be rich and famous, or maybe planting a beautiful garden, traveling, or writing that book is what is important to you. And who knows, if we live our authentic self, maybe we'll be that voice that cries out around the world and makes a difference. And that then you will know when you take your final breath that you've lived your life from the song of your heart and the passion of your soul. Mr. Contest Chair.